Hi everyone, we have about 2 minutes until the session goes live.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like your attention. So I just want to know that you're here, not on your phones, not on your computers. I have all your attention. So give me a round of applause, just so that I know you're here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, I just want to know that you're not asleep after lunch. So another round of applause, please. You know, because it happens, right? And third, I just need to know that you know whom I'm sitting next to, because she's a superstar in the world of DRR. Round of applause, please. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, here live. And of course, for all of you joining us online, it's absolutely wonderful to have you here. Now, my name is Anita Erskine, and I will be your moderator for the next 90 minutes with a special focus on advancing disaster risk reduction, localization through South-South, and triangular cooperation, peer-to-peer exchange, and international partnership. Bottom line is collaborations across continents, across cultures, across organizations. How do we accelerate disaster risk reduction at the local and sub-national levels through international cooperation? Now, we've got our Slido QR code somewhere coming up. We want to hear your thoughts, make your contributions, and also later on, we want to make sure that we are engaged with you. I'll send you, or I'll have some questions for you, and we want to take your vote on that. But for now, I am beautifully and powerfully paired up. I wish you were my co-host, actually, Margarita. You know, I wish we were doing this together.
Yes.
But you would outshine me, because you know everything and I know very little. Now, Margarita is the former special representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, and she's currently the honorary president of the Swedish Red Cross. Margarita, 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 how many times did I say your name? You should have to answer that. 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's because you have extensive experience, you know, and we would like to start off our conversation with your specific reflections on how international cooperation on DRR has evolved over the past years. Margarita?
I would say, and I think many of you, good afternoon, I should say, also to start. Some of you would have felt like I did, that after Sendai, there were some years when we were a little bit on the back burner of the international community. So many other things, this and that, but now, since a few years, and I think there are very obvious concrete issues happening around us that actually brought this matter, our GP, the disaster risk reduction, back onto the global agenda. So that we must say, it is now part of, everyone sees the disasters, they identify climate change with disasters in different ways. And we see that we are not progressing on poverty reduction, and we see that governments are working hard on trying to keep the community safer. So in that sense, I see we have a huge opportunity now to make progress. There are many areas where there is progress, I can feel it, but there are also many areas that there isn't sufficient progress. I try to be now very positive. This morning we discussed early warning. I think that's a dramatic sense of really pushing an issue. I know that you have again lifted the school safety program. It was started, then it sort of declined, but I'm really happy to see that it's back in motion. And other many issues, but there are specific issues for this session that are actually linked to, and I've checked up before I came here in the Sendai Framework, all the commitments that were made to peer learning, local communities, global participation. I think this is an area of insufficient progress.
Okay.
I know it's happening, and let me say, one of the reasons why I really look at this area is institutions are really bad at keeping the memories alive. And people move on, and we forget a lot of the things that we've done well and our mistakes. So the best way to preserve that is through peer-to-peer learning, and insist on it. It's also very practical. It should be supported and promoted. And peer-to-peer learning is across the global avenues. I know it's a far travel between the Caribbean and Pacific, but imagine how much they have in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Margarita, before you take your seat, I understand we need to make a lot more progress, but we're here now. We're here at GP 2025. If you could advise everyone in this room how to identify each other, how to collaborate, how to learn from each other, what would that advice be?
Well, I could be naughty and say, read the Sendai Framework. Because everyone is in there. But this morning I heard in a session with the disability community, there was one sentence that really stuck with me. You cannot build resilience without equality. And I think that's one of the reasons here, because we talked about here, everyone talks with each other. So, look up, what can we do together? What is your expertise? You don't need to travel always. What is your expertise? What expertise can you bring? What is your network? I need to really develop cooperation among municipalities. What's your experience of that? And here I think we need to be really proactive. And I'm not saying, well, maybe I'm saying it, but we've talked also in the last few days, and over years I've heard it many times. We cannot really wait for governments to solve all the problems we have. Some of the issues that we are tackling, you know how to solve them, so set out to solve them at your level, within your community, and in a way help governments to identify the issues, because as we know, governments in most countries hesitate to delegate. Yep. It's the nature of governments. I think in our work style, we can motivate them to do that through directing ourselves to them. And that's what we need to do.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's an exceptional beginning to our program today. Please give a round of applause to Ms. Margarita Wallström, current honorary president of the Swedish Red Cross. Margarita, thank you very much. You may take your seat, but don't leave. I may come back to you, so cancel all your afternoon's meetings. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this then allows us to segue to our first panel. I would like to invite the Deputy Director, Climate Resilience Department, United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, UK, Mr. Gerard Howe. I also have Professor, Distinguished Technical Advisor on Disaster Risk Reduction, Japan International Cooperation Agency, Mr. Taeka Kimio. Please do have your seat, gentlemen. Head Disaster Risk Reduction Management Division, Makati City, Philippines, Miss Liza Vele Ramos. We have Secretary of Disaster Risk Management, Cali City, Colombia, Ms. Pacheco. Last, definitely not the least, lecturer and researcher, Civil Engineering Department, Mohammed V University in Rabat, and Mohammedia School of Engineering, Morocco, Mr. Nabil Mikawi, PhD. A round of applause. We do have a virtual participant. I will confirm if she's able to join us, but jumping straight to you, Mr. Howe. Is it Mr. Howe? Is that Gerard? Gerard is fine? Gerard, let's talk about, the perspective of national government, from a national government perspective. What are the most effective strategies to ensure that international development corporations strengthen disaster risk reduction and resilience?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anita, and thank you for the opportunity to be here, and good afternoon, everybody. And this room is a fantastic example of the strength and depth of capability, motivation towards this agenda, so it's great to be here. So the first comment just on the strategies need to be really clear about the values they embody and the case for action. And I think in this example, it's really very true. The values are very clear indeed, because work on DRR, on risk reduction, is about choices. It's about choices of which risks to reduce, to retain, to transfer, and how to respond. And absolutely, those facing those risks need to be the ones informing and making those choices. So it's absolutely intrinsically right. But we also know that those risks, understanding the way people understand risks and how those choices are made, is based in local reality. And I had some really good examples yesterday from colleagues in Indonesia and Bangladesh about how local communities are constructing solutions that work for multiple outputs for their communities to build resilience. And it's extremely important we plug into those. And we know that local communities means engaging with communities who have a deep understanding of place, of social dynamic, and structural barriers. That's from a recent paper from Practical Action, so thank you. And then for the UK government, I think about it in 5 ways. The first is you need to commit in principle and in practice to working with and for communities. That's really important to make that commitment. Secondly, you need to partner with institutions who share those values and with whom you can build further momentum. Thirdly, you need to take every opportunity you can to institutionalize inclusive, locally led resilience and build the capability for that. But you have a responsibility to take those opportunities. Fourthly, you've got to value and show the value of information by and from communities in taking action. And fifthly, you need to be deliberate and specific about what you're doing. And if I can, I'd just like to give just a few examples of each of those, if we have
Of course.
time. So the first one is to commit to locally led resilience and development and commit to implementing that. And so the UK's signed the locally led adaptation principles, but it's also making yourself accountable to that. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable, and sometimes it means having some honest discussions, but it's really important. On working with partners who share values and seek to institutionalize locally led resilience and capability, the UK works, along with others, alongside the LDC group to implement a program called Life AR. And its aim is to move 70% of climate finance behind community prioritized investments. And we're building pipelines and institutions in Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Uganda to do that. So that actually in Burkina, communities are asking for resilience to drought and rising temperatures, and that's being delivered through local governments on behalf of and with local communities. I am the former chair of CRUISE and a member of CRUISE, and with CRUISE we're testing that, making sure, which is the Climate Risk and Early Warning Systems Initiative, we're ensuring we've got people-centered guidance for all of our implementing partners, seeing through the chain to make sure that's happening. And then for our risk-informed early action partnership the UK is part of, we've just had an excellent paper by REAP and the Zurich Alliance on how to integrate people-centered approaches. Right. Moving on to investing in showing the value of information, the UK's Met Office has a series of programs that's again working with local communities to increase resilience. So for example, in Kenya, it's a program called WISER. It facilitated the start of Weather Matani in Kibera, and that reduced people dying of floods and increased investment. In Uganda, working with fisher communities to examine weather, that reduced weather-related deaths and increased benefits. And then fifthly, ways to be deliberate about our specific actions as governments, to work with directly and listen to communities. And I'm really proud that we have partnered with GNDR, who many will know won an award yesterday, which is fantastic, for their work on DRR, to work in partnership with them and their networks to begin and bring to this forum discussions by communities on the solutions they're finding for resilience, including bringing working across 6 countries and having 24 member organizations here to lobby, to share their stories and to bring those lessons forward. So those are the principles I would suggest. There is a final 6th one, and that I think is to listen and learn with some humility, and I'd like to thank all of those in this room that are providing that.
Listen and learn with some humility. Thank you so much, Gerard. You were speaking, I was looking at the butterfly on your lapel. You can leave it with you on your way out. But let's focus. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like Mr. Kimio to also share his thoughts and of course some examples as well. Mr. Kimio, same question. We're looking at the most effective strategies to ensure that international development cooperation strengthens disaster risk reduction and resilience.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Takeya. We usually use the family name. That's okay. So answer is very simple. Yeah. In the Sendai Framework, it's very simple described. Phase 1 is establish national and local DRR strategy in order to implement it later until 2020. This is phase 1. And phase 2 is implementing based on the outcome of phase 1 local DRR plan, including local investing plan, and realize on the ground. So this is a very simple answer. And the next, there is a structured layers, and why this is not effectively implemented on the ground by the budget or leadership or political willingness and everything. So I'm the main negotiator from the Japanese government to the Sendai Framework. I spent 157 days here in Geneva together with Margaret Wolfson. Very expensive, but wide and deep and several discussions among the 156 countries, states, more than 300 negotiators. We discussed 1 year. Everything included and combined. Yeah. The final document is Sendai Framework. And most effective method is mobilize local DRR. We promised each other, make it until 2020 and implement it until 2030. So this is our promise. But in the reality, the situation is changing. So let's refer back to Sendai Framework. We defined risk type. Several risk types, not only, in order that we discuss about how to reduce the risk, we must identify what kind of risk we are talking this time. For example, we identify risk type, existing risk versus future risk, which will be produced by our economical activities. Put the houses in the inundation area for the future. And the development company get the profit and say bye-bye. That's all. So we are very seriously to protect it by the governance. Yeah. And another risk type is extensive risk versus intensive risk. So intensive risk is like a Japanese big earthquake. Every 1,000 year happen type of earthquake and tsunami. Yeah. Never happen again for the future 800 years. Because plate tectonics stock the energy 1 year, 10 year, 100, 500, then break it. But on the other hand, extensive event like a random event, like a flood, mainly coming from the precipitation. Today, 15 years return period of flood, rainfall and flood happen. But next week, 100 years return period of rainfall and flood can be happen. This is random happening. So usually our international donor support mega disaster, like an intensive event. But the extensive event, which is happening every 3 years, local disaster or local landslide or local something, not illuminated by the international society, but that will kick the body blow to the country's economy. Yeah. So we must separate. mega disaster, many donors can and want to support, and the big money drop into the country, and sometimes corruption happened, and so on. But still, it was streamlined by the Build Back Better concept, which is proposed from Japanese government as an experience. So we must think about it. So for the extensive event, every few years flood and the more small, but they simultaneously happen in every country. International not to support. So we will how to survive from that, how to reduce. So we decided to make local DRR plan. That because disaster happened in the local side. In Japan, we have the 47 prefecture, and that means 47 governors. And we have the over 1,700 municipality. We have same kind of mayor. Their election voting, if they don't care about a disaster risk reduction, they cannot get a post. So this is the civil minimum or common sense of Japanese people. So finally, political will made by citizens' majority. Yeah. So we must very carefully take the responsibility in the democratic country, not like
I'm happy you stopped right there. You stopped right there. You know, thank you so much, gentlemen, for kind of bringing in that government perspective, that national perspective, and now I want to bring it to the sub-national perspective. That's why I have you, Ms. Ramos, and I have you, Ms. Is it no, sorry, Ms. Pacheco? Pacheco and Ms. Ramos. All right. Who's laughing? Ladies, let's bring it down to the city to city collaboration and how a greater role is played in ensuring that regional and local needs shape the design of international cooperation. And of course, I also want you to explain what can be done to scale up these efforts. Same question to both of you. Ms. Pacheco, you can start. It is, yes, it's on.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. First of all, a very special greeting to the present people and also to all the panelists. We think that from Cali, the best approach is to adopt a model of co-responsibility. And this is born mainly from home. And when I'm talking about home, is that we as a local government, we need to establish this link with the municipalities and the neighbor territories. And this implies also a bidirectional relationship, which is practically something intrinsical with the national government. And of course, we have to know that it is also important to establish international relationships. We have been doing this work of exchange of experiences among cities, and the most important way of working that we have in our city nowadays is this one. Last year, 2024, we could sign 32 memorandums of understanding and also partnerships with neighbor territories. But we do not consider that direct cooperation is the only valuable thing that we have in order to learn, to generate knowledge, but also to establish practical things and to know what is happening in our cities. And that's why that this has been the work in the network of cities has been something essential. Apart from this, Cali belongs to this resilient city network, and also she belongs to this non-resilience group of United Nations. And we have had the opportunity to have this link. And 2 weeks ago, we were meeting with Rio de Janeiro, checking everything having to do with the project Jarillon, the most important project of the city to reduce the risk. We have got more than 22 kilometers of dam in order to protect the families, and we have the challenge to resettle more than 8,000 people in order to protect the life and to preserve the ecosystem around Cauca River. It is really the most important river of 10 departments in Colombia. And this is the second most important river of Colombia, of our country. From the Secretary of Management of Risk, and I have the honor of living it in my city. We are one of the departments of this municipality with the biggest mobility in the processes of exchange of knowledge, and we have got a process of communitarian work, something essential in this exercise of co-responsibility as the matrix of stakeholders, and all the stakeholders are participating in each of the processes, because in our country and in our city, culturally, what it happens is that when we have an emergency and there is a public catastrophe, a public disaster, at the end, we have to solve at least 70% of the consequences of it. We have three big proposals. I don't know if I have to talk about it right now afterward. One, that we as territories have to participate from the very moment of the proposal in these cooperation exercises. And we have got a very good example with JICA. JICA visited three cities in our country, Medellin, Bogota, and Cali. And really this exercising of knowing the needs, being part of the same country, we do not face the same challenges. But based on us, in May, after several conversations, we reached an agreement only to satisfy the needs of Cali, but to satisfy the needs of the three cities. And all of us are part of this resilient node of the UNO, and we have to replicate the activities of neighbor territories that need to evolve in these things.
To prepare more institutional spaces. These spaces are basic for listening and feedback in between cities, national institutions, and international bodies. And thirdly, our experience demonstrates that when international cooperation departs from the knowledge and experience of the territories, this social, economic, and environmental and cultural impact is bigger, but also sustainability of those regions, of course.
And so I give the floor to you as well, Ms. Ramos.
Sure, and I agree with the transboundary solutions and cooperation, which is really vital in resilience building. But I'd like to give a perspective on the city-to-city cooperation at the regional and global levels, which Makati has long been benefiting for. We have reaped the fruits of these kinds of collaboration. We transcend boundaries, and by boundaries, I'm not only talking about boundaries of my city, but even boundaries of my country and even the region. Because of city-to-city cooperation, we were able to initiate projects that were inspired from practices by other cities. We bring in concepts and experiences by other cities in our cities resilience building journey. Personally, I was exposed to my first ever city-to-city cooperation funded by the World Bank, GFDRR. It's under their South-to-South cooperation program. And this particular project was a partnership project among Quito, Ecuador, Kathmandu, Nepal, and Makati, Philippines. So just imagine the broad scope of a city-to-city cooperation that can actually move mountains in the field of resilience building. So this experience, as well as our other international cooperation activities, opens opportunities for our expanded learning. City-to-city cooperation, in our experience, can also provide solutions to resilience issues that's been lingering in our cities but have been addressed by others. It can help us expand our horizon and learn from success and even failure stories of resilience building of other cities. So while there may be nuances because of the difference in context, different in local conditions, sometimes methodologies, and even the level of strategies at the community level can actually be emulated by other cities, depending, of course, on your local policies and systems. So in the case of Makati, we've been using city-to-city cooperation to expand our horizon and expand our vision for resilience building in our city. We've used forms of technology transfer, technology development, local capacity building. And if you will allow me, I will share with you some of the very concrete examples of how these interventions have benefited our city and other cities as well. So for instance, Makati is actually an MCR 2030 resilience hub. And because of our role as a resilience hub in the MCR 2030 network, we have this opportunity to train and coach other cities globally, not even just in the Asia-Pacific region, about their disaster resilience road mapping using the Disaster Resilience Scorecard Toolkit of the MCR 2030. So, for example, just last year or maybe 2 years ago, we went to Nepal. We've trained 14 cities in Nepal. And we have actually, capacitated them to address their resilience, to assess where they are in terms of their resilience progress. And if you notice, of course, we have different contexts, different local conditions, Nepal, Philippines. But then again, because of that capacity building, the strategies that we've employed in our city, and their capacity to try to localize and harmonize it within their local system, that made the way, that paved the way for them to expand their horizon as well. That solutions may not only be limited to Nepal, but we can also get experiences from the Philippines. Another example is, of course, through city networks and associations. Makati is a member of many associations like UCLG. CityNet. CityNet is actually an association of metropolises in the Asia-Pacific region. And Makati is actually the disaster cluster lead of CityNet. And because of that, we have this opportunity as a lead to level up the local solutions from our CityNet members to make it globally relevant and contributory to the targets of the Sendai Framework. But aside from that, we also benefit from these associations or city networks because, for instance, Yokohama City in Japan capacitated our search and rescue team. And then now that we have already completed the capacity building program, we are now in the process of capacitating the firefighters of Lalitpur in Nepal. Another good story that I can share is, of course, transfer of technology or transfer development, wherein a practice in Japan, Plus Arts, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's a nonprofit organization. They actually have a booth in the innovations platform. Just a very quick promotion before the closing ceremony.
Send you the bill for that, yeah?
So just to continue, they were able to expose us to the different DRR learning centers in Japan. And now we do have our creative DRR education program, wherein we were able to gamify DRR education in Makati. So we produce those materials with the help of our partners. But as I've said, it's not only within the Asia-Pacific region. We went even beyond the boundaries of the Asia-Pacific region. And we were fortunate to be invited in a workshop in Cologne, Germany. And in that workshop, even if we do have different hazards, different threats, different contexts, different policies, and even governance system, Cologne, Germany realized that the Philippines system in empowering our communities and empowering women in the work of disaster risk reduction is something that they want to learn from us. So, and it's the same with yesterday. We were in a global resilience networking event with a city representative from Namibia who wants to also learn from us in terms of becoming a resilience hub. And then we just talked about how we were able to mainstream DRR functions into the governance system of Makati. And they were just like, how can we do that in our city?
Yeah.
So there's so many examples. But what I just want to drive at is that sometimes we need to really go out of our boundaries. Even if we do have difference in context, difference in local conditions, difference in local systems and policies, collectively, if we really harness and leverage on the benefits of city-to-city cooperation, then we can accelerate resilience actions aggressively at the global level.
Thank you so much. Collectively. Collectively is the key word here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've established the national, subnational, and I would love the academia perspective from you, Dr. Makawi. Take us through some of the best practices from your perspective for enhancing peer-to-peer learning through South-South and triangular cooperation. And particularly, let's also talk about building capacities and facilitating the transfer of knowledge and technologies to support localized DRR.
Thank you, Anita. I'm very glad to be part of this esteemed panel. And I would like also to thank you and DRR for organizing all these events. So I will share my thoughts from the academia point of view. And first I would start by South-South cooperation. So I would like to say that for Morocco, South-South cooperation is a pillar in the foreign policy of Morocco. And under the sovereignty and governance of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, the message was clear. Africa is priority. And it was proven by the king by many royal visits, more than 50 royal visits since his intronization in the power. And also he visited like more than 30 countries in Africa to promote these South-South corporations. And it reached at the end to the signature of more than 1,000 cooperation with African countries. And this kind of cooperation is like trilateral cooperations. It's between public and private and also academia. So this is the good part of these cooperations. So because we have many projects with different countries, like I would say some examples with, for example, Ivory Coast and Guinea and Ghana, we have some cooperations for transport and infrastructure. And of course, it involves some technical knowledge. And here is the academia part. So scientists and professors and researchers in universities in Morocco and both sides, even in the partner country, so they work together to provide solutions, technical solutions for those projects. And this is a very good part, and it was very clever and very good to involve university in these kind of projects. So this is one part. And I would like to add some other projects. For example, in Ethiopia, so there is a big project of constructing fertilizer factories, because as you know, like Morocco is one of the main leader in phosphate industry. And so we have a big project with Ethiopia, and also research is really involved here. So they provide technical, and also we have like the legal framework and the financial support. So it's very easy for researchers to do their job. Because as you may know, so sometimes it's not easy. So even if we have the knowledge, but if we don't have the financial support and the legal framework, it's kind of hard. Sometimes we say researchers are fighters because they do their best to provide good solutions with with sometimes from nothing. Yeah, just doing some numerical simulations. But we need also some, I would say, facilities for experiments. We need some technical equipment as well, and it needs some financial support. So this is for the South-South cooperation. And I would like also to add from the other part about triangular cooperation. So here, so we have the support from a developed country that can help low to middle income countries. And here I would like to talk mainly about, of course, we have many examples, but I would like to say the case of cooperations that we had with Japan, because I am one of the beneficiaries of these cooperations. So we have many training programs to build capacities that we conducted. Morocco had this agreement with JICA, Japanese International Cooperation Agency, and we could, many officials in the Moroccan government could beneficiate from many technical trainings. And here I would say trainings about DRR, disaster risk reduction. So it's about tsunami hazard, it's about flooding, it's about seismology, it's about earthquake engineering. So I was one of the beneficiaries of the earthquake engineering course, and I'm very glad and I'm very grateful to Japan for that, because it helped me to shape all my scientific, I would say, background. And for example, now, currently, I'm involved in the revision of the seismic code of Morocco, and all this is thanks to this program. So it's very good to have this kind of cooperation, international cooperations, because it helps a lot officials in the beneficiary countries to build their capacity and to promote disaster risk reduction in low to middle income countries.
Thank you so much. You wanted to say one, like 30 seconds.
Very short. Not joking. Yeah. For the DRR measures, countermeasures, is very difficult. Many items, many selection. But for example, for another disaster like healthcare or education, for example, for the COVID-19, the solution is very simple. Vaccine is one big solution, key solution. But for the DRR, like a flat case, reservoir system, or widening the river, or dredging the river, or make the retention pond, or make the controlled inundation area with land use planning, there's a many alternatives. And it should be tailor-made and selected to fit to the local condition. So we are doing, of course, education or training and develop some advanced country using together and the South-South cooperation we are doing. But most important thing is don't insist simple way. We must tailor-made, fit to the each country's condition. Not only the physical condition, but all the economical or people's will, and so I want that.
So what I get from you is always pay attention, listen, and understand the local needs in order for your cooperation or your partnership or your collaboration to work. Our last contributor is Miss Astrid Furaha Matendo, and she's a project coordinator, Association des Femmes pour la Promotion et le Développement Democratic Republic of the Congo. She is online somewhere with us. I would like you, Miss Matendo, if you can hear me, to share examples of how good practices by at-risk populations, such as women's groups, can be scaled and replicated through international cooperation, and why this is important. Miss Matendo, did you hear me? Are you with us? Miss Matendo, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I can hear you very well. Yes, hi, everyone. So now I can talk to you if you want to.
Est-ce que tu m'entends?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Yes, I can hear you very well. Okay, fine. So I would love to share my experience with all of you regarding what we are doing in my nation. I know the women in my country is doing an excellent job regarding the disaster, regarding this topic and disaster risk reduction. So we work a lot with local communities. We work with the local authorities also, and we make sure that the citizens that receive all the training they need, because of course they need to understand, the citizens need to understand what is DRR. So we have a lot of very good approaches towards the resilience and how to deal with risks. And sometimes, indeed, we had specific programs. Some didn't work, but some worked quite well. For example, we've been working with a lot of women regarding early warning systems. I'm speaking about locally, of course. So really, to work with women who are very willing to help, it's very rewarding, to be honest with you. So we have a lot of organizations working with us, international organizations which are willing to help us locally. So, but sometimes, we hear from international organizations that they are willing to help us, but then in the fields, really in the reality, we cannot see their help. So a lot of promises, but afterwards, when we don't have, let's say, the results, For example, we heard that we would receive some different systems for early warnings, but until now, we have a very limited number of these systems, so we need more backup or more support. So since 2023, up to next year, we will still have a lot of issues. We have our own early warnings, which are quite interesting, but sometimes, they are quite limited. That is why we need the help of the government. We also work with some technologies, for example, to how to forecast the weather. So this is definitely an excellent job coming from the women in my where I live. So again, women are very sensitive regarding, the needs of the citizens, of the locals. So again, we have a lot of challenges. One of the challenges that we have is sometimes, the local government is not willing to hear our voices. So I believe that local authorities and the government should include in their programs women, because I'm sure that we could really add a value to these projects. But we have to learn more, of course, from you. For example, I understood that there are a lot of regions and cities working together, which is great. Burundi, we work with Burundi, we work with Uganda, because, we are living very close to each other. So, of course, we had common disasters, for example, floods. We have epidemics, diseases also, pandemics also. So because we have the same issues, and we are able to collaborate together to tackle these problems. So the collaboration with other countries are definitely something which is part of our current pipeline. And thank you so much to all of you.
Now, let's say a big thank you to our round of panelists. Thank you so much for joining us for this first round. You may go back and take your seats. At this point, I would also like to ask our Slido QR code to come up. And we want to know which area, from your perspective, should be prioritized to accelerate disaster risk reduction at the local level through to the international cooperation, or through international cooperation, pardon me. Please scan the QR code. It will show up somewhere, some way, somehow. And the options are enhancing technology transfer and innovation sharing. Do you think this is the most important? Strengthening capacity building and peer-to-peer learning. Expanding non-traditional cooperation models such as South-South, city-to-city, triangular cooperation, as we mentioned, or perhaps promoting inclusive and community-led approaches in international cooperation. There you are. You can scan it and tell us which one you believe is the most important and should be prioritized. Now I throw the ball into the audience, and whomever it is that can catch it, catch it. When you catch it, come and join me right here. I need 4 participants from any of you, any bold participants. Yes, sir. I knew it would be you. Now, I want to see the other side of the room, sir, so you take my seat over here. Let me sit over here so I can see the people who are laughing at me. All right. Okay, ladies, you knew I was going to do this, right? Maybe one more? Can I have a... Yes, sir. Okay, please come. Please come. Wow. So here are the rules, very simple. I'll ask a question. You have only 3 minutes, no more than that, because you're not an official panelist, but that's fine. Only 3 minutes to answer, and, sorry? You will coordinate. Thank you so much. And who are you? I'm just joking. All right, no, don't mind me. I'm just being silly. Now, the first question to you, sir, because you were the last to join: how can international cooperation accelerate DRR at the local and sub-national levels? Tell us who you are, your organization. You may take one of these microphones, sir, by all means. Your organization, and 3 minutes to answer the question. Go ahead, sir. It's working.
Good morning, everyone. I am Alessandro Torico. I come from the province of Potenza in Italy. It's a local authority of regional competence, and we are working with 100 cities. We are working in disaster risk reduction since the beginning of 2000, so it's 20 years that we are engaged in this process, and it's a very hard process to improve the resilience of the territory. I can say that in our experience, international cooperation, transnational cooperation, city, region, all over Europe in our case, but also outside the Europe, is the engine of our activity. Yeah. We are investing a lot on this because, yes, of course, we have some financial mechanism that give us the possibility to accelerate this cooperation because European Union is funding a lot of exchanges about this. But apart the financial mechanism, we have the possibility to learn from each other, to exchange experiences. The solution, most of the time, are somewhere. So if you know what you want, if you know how to get it, the cooperation, this transnational cooperation, it gives the possibility to learn and to import the solution that you need. We are in the Making Cities Resilient campaign since 2015. It's 10 years now. We started with Margareta, so thank you for giving us the possibility to start this process. We are still struggling with a lot of internal problems, yes, of course, but it is the motivation for us to go on and to enlarge our relationship with the others. So this is our experience. We are.
That's a fantastic contribution, and I kind of want to come to you, my dear sister, because I know you're from Kenya, and I would love to hear how, in your mind, perhaps from the Kenyan perspective, international cooperation can accelerate DRR at the local and subnational levels, perhaps in Kenya or any other markets that you're familiar with. Your name and your organization, kindly.
Good afternoon. My name is Farhia Ahmed Abdurrahman. I'm the Programs Director for Zamzam Foundation, Kenya. On the ground, Foundation has worked extensively with marginalized communities in urban informal settlements, drought-prone rural areas, that is Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and Turkana, Marsabit, those areas of Kenya. We actually call them part of it Kwaheri Kenya, because it's so dry that it's a joke, internal joke. So, I will say that settlements, drought-prone areas, for example, we've implemented community-based early warning system that have helped over 5,000 households, prepared to help flood-prone areas, droughts, reduce loss of life and livelihood. For example, 2022, as you remember, there was a drought that hit badly in Asel and Asel counties. Those are people who depend on livestock. And more than 1.2 million livestock are lost. And these are livelihoods for people in that area. Despite this success, sustained funded remains challenge to us, and we'll appreciate if the international donors and government, the private sectors through CSR can come and also help us meet the gaps in the areas. So, other challenges we also face is access to timely and risk data analysis in the ground, because by the time that these people get the information, it is too late, and livelihood is lost within the community.
Yeah, so you've outlined the challenges very quickly in 30 seconds. What would then be your key recommendations?
My key recommendation is we come together. Such platforms, we come together, exchange ideas, how we can help the community, how we can bring this locally to the ground. Because in Kenya, I will say, working with the women and the grassroots levels within the community, I have realized that they have solutions on the ground. So we sit down together, find the solutions, and others actually have disaster risk reduction solutions locally, and also which has been there for generations.
So a fine blend between the local solutions and, of course, maybe modern technological solutions, if you may put it that way.
Yes.
Fantastic. Very, very well said. I'm going to jump over to you, your name and your organization, and perhaps also just backtracking or backpacking on what she has just submitted, key recommendations, and how should these actions be directed and probably even highlighted?
Thank you for putting this question. My name is Nidhi Nagabatla. I'm with United Nations University and Belgium, and as a UN think tank, we work on science-society interfacing and science policy interfacing. And putting that experience into answering this point, we also should look into multi-level governance, which is like vertical agencies in the government systems are tied together, sharing information, data, and knowledge. But how about our horizontal agencies like community-based organizations, which stand in solidarity in terms of disaster risk mitigation, adaptation, governance, and management. And this is the solidarity we have to leverage. We did intensive research after the Belgian floods of 2022, and we thought one thing with all the tension and destruction was that people felt that there is someone around to help them while the government is sending help. And people, this community-based resilience is also something that we like to flag. There's another point we also want to flag is using digital innovation. While the scientific community is busy doing innovation early warning system, we would also are also promoting the use of AI and building those scenarios on storytelling for enhancing risk perception that we see is grossly missing. People don't perceive the risk disasters can bring, especially slow onset disasters. And one of the risks, which is totally under-reflected and underlooked, is the risk on mental health.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's an interesting angle. The risk on mental health.
Yes.
Wow. Do you, I'm not going to ask if you agree with her, but when you talk about numerous risks, and you tell us your name and your organization, where then do you believe these peer-to-peer collaborations will come into play?
Thank you very much. My name is Namrata, and I'm from the University of Chester. I'm representing the academic world, which it was fantastic to see someone representing that. And I come across, I'm a associate professor at the university, so I come across a lot of young people. And when I heard about mental health, and I can totally agree with what Nidhi just mentioned, that the importance of understanding, and when you come across, and I wanted to highlight the importance of engaging with the youth, and we have seen fantastic sessions carried out here, and UN promoting how important the youth collaboration is with. We're talking a lot about collaboration, coordination, a lot of C's I hear, which is brilliant, but there is an importance of not thinking in silos only. I wanted to highlight this, and I want to highlight really, really well, that brilliant thing is the way you're thinking about South-South collaboration. Let's not forget about North-South. Let's not forget about East-West, because these things that when we do this collaboration, especially coming from a research background, coming from a knowledge transfer background, coming from a training background, these collaborations are important. Let's not forget that. Let's not think in silos. Let's build back better, but also build back together.
Wow. Did you prepare that speech?
No,
because
I
it was
didn't.
powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No. I love it. Let's not build back better, but build back together. I'm going to tweet it and pretend I came up with that. I bring it to you, sir, the very last contributor. So we've talked about, challenges, examples. To you, our last contributor, I want to talk again about, yes, peer-to-peer collaborations, but how do we maximize their impact? International cooperation, peer-to-peer, how do we maximize their impact?
Yeah, first of all, myself, Dr. Prasad, I'm working as a disaster management officer in India with government of Maharashtra. I was thinking that the clock is coming this way, but moderator changed the route.
Yes,
again.
because I don't know if you've prepared your answer, so I just wanted to confuse you just a little bit and give you the very difficult question.
Yeah, just within a minute, first I would like to tell you that
Go ahead, please.
community is the key to beat back any kind of disaster, which I witnessed in my 20 years career in disaster management. In my district, we have faced severe floods, we have faced landslides, we have faced major road accidents, and we are prone to many other disasters. But with the help of community, though I'm working with the government, we have beat several disasters in many years. We have faced severe floods in 19, we have faced severe floods in 21. And during the pandemic, the whole world have faced. But with the help of our volunteers, our women volunteers, we have did a lot. Okay. So we are pioneering many things. We have formed India's first all-women disaster response force in Kolhapur. We have formed India's first transgender disaster response force in Kolhapur. We have community-owned GSM technology-based centralized public address system for early warning in Kolhapur. And we have India's first public-private partnership-based ham radio communication system in Kolhapur. So I feel that this collaboration only can result in best.
Yeah.
I have witnessed in past 20 years, and we have collaborated right from local to international. We have the collaboration with international universities, we have the collaboration with IITs in India, and we have the collaboration with all the line departments at district as well as state and national level. So this is the key where we can achieve maximum in DRR. This is what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for that contribution. I'm going to go around. Each of you has only 15 seconds, no more. You, sir, you look like you need 2 minutes, but it's 15 seconds. What gives you hope is the question to all of you. 15 seconds, what gives you hope? And now this time I'll go this way. Yes, sir. What gives you hope? What makes you so sure that we are on the right track? 15 seconds.
Personally, I think that the collaboration starts from people.
Yeah.
So the hope is that people, passionate people like us, will give the strength to this movement to strengthen the cooperation between the communities and the world.
Okay, a lot of pressure, I know. Did you feel that? Okay, 15 seconds. What gives you hope?
What gave me hope is the synergy, the willingness, the togetherness, and to overcome DRR. In all over the world, not only specifically one side of the country, but all over floods, droughts, landslides, be it all. That togetherness alone, it's enough.
Okay, that was 20 seconds. But yes, sir, what gives you hope, sir?
Yes, we are all together. This is a great hope for me because going to build a safe world in future.
We're all together, and I'm going to switch the questions. What would you advise all of us to do in 15 seconds?
Think global, but act local.
I don't like these academia people. They're always ready. You know, this was supposed to confuse you. What would be your call to action? We're all paying attention. Call to action to make collaborations and partnerships work.
Let's leverage our collective capacity. We have it all in this room, in this building, in this world, on our planet.
Another academia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to our impromptu contributors. Thank you. I absolutely love your contribution. You may take your seats. Can we quickly take a look at the poll for our Slido results? We talked about prioritizing what we need to accelerate disaster risk reduction. Okay, strengthening capacity building and peer-to-peer learning is at 40%. So it looks like a lot of you do believe, those of you here and online, you believe that this is the area that should be prioritized to accelerate disaster risk reduction at the local level through international cooperation, and that is strengthening capacity building and peer-to-peer learning. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to finish by asking maybe one or two of my previous contributors, my previous panelists, anybody have something to say that they didn't fit? Margarita, you're always an easy pick. Please come back. And anybody else who wants to make their final word, Gerard, you're looking right at me. I want the butterfly. Come. Hopefully I can bribe you into getting the butterfly. Okay, and who's our last one? Voluntario para panelists. Lo siento. Para el panelist. No way
I'm
bueno.
so sorry, volunteer for the panel.
For the panelists, but you know what? Let me be unfair for a minute. Whatever she said is funny. Let me be unfair for a minute. Okay, so Mr. Takeya. Okay, Luis, we have We have 30 minutes? Did you have to say that out loud? Now I'm in trouble. Now I've got to go to, you can join us. No, come sit down. De nada. I should have taken Spanish seriously in school. Maybe one more person. Yes, G and DR, only because you won last night. Come. Only because you won last night. And I hear you guys had the after party of the year. What happened?
Yeah, what can I say? That was great.
Tell me the secret, tell me all of it. Do you remember?
Yeah, of course.
What happened last night? Okay, but I'm going to start off because you won the big Sasakawa Award yesterday, and perhaps it's important for me to ask you, what good practices should we continue?
I think what basically, and I think that we need to emphasize what Gerard just said, I think, is partnerships should be driven by values, shared values. And again, it's complicated. And I don't want to be a party pooper or anything. I think that the energy of previous speakers was great. And I think that that's basically what we believe of, is getting together. But it's complicated. Let's be serious. It is complicated. And I was a bit disappointed when we were talking about triangular cooperation. And it was mentioned national governments. It was mentioned academia. It was mentioned donors. Come on. What's missing? We're talking about localization. Yeah. Where are locals? What are the local organizations? Maybe it's a square cooperation.
Yeah.
So I think it is important to be values-driven and make sure that together we find a way. It's complicated. Nobody said it was easy, and Margareta has experience, a lot of experience in trying to figure out how to do it. We need to do it. We know how to deal with risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to take risks. It is funny, and let me, sorry if I'm speaking too much, but it is funny when you listen to donors, not always FCDO case at all, but it's like it is too risky to work with local organizations. Come on, it is 32% more cost effective. How do you explain to your taxpayers that you are paying 32% more expensive cooperating with other, you know what I mean? So, yeah, again, I want to be positive. We need to be positive.
No, but I think positivity is one thing and transparency is another. You know what I mean? And I do believe that for any kind of action to happen, especially when we leave this room, we need to also kind of like open up the Pandora's box for all the, you know, and look at all the angles. But you mentioned there was no localized example, but we did have Madame Furaha from DRC, who also...
I mean, great example. And we were sharing yesterday in a seminar about localizing early warning systems. Beautiful, beautiful examples. I remember one from Colombia. One of our members implementing an early warning system in one of these favelas, these settlements controlled by drug dealers. Really complicated to do that. When you have to put sensors through whole community with the permission. How do you get the permission from the drug dealers to do so?
Just don't say it out loud because we're live on air.
But I mean,
no, but in a more serious note, of course.
It was done. It's working. Favela is protected in general, not from those guys. But I mean, there are beautiful examples when the community is included, when the community is leading or supporting. It is much more.
When the locals believe they've been heard and they have been able to provide their own solutions in collaboration with others, it's a beautiful reality. Madame, I'll come to you, your name, and your question is, with your experience, what are some of...
¿Me escucha? ¿Sí?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in your experience, some of the examples that you can share.
Ya, bueno, mi nombre es Susana
My
Fuentes.
name is Susana Fuentes, and I represent the private sector of Chile. And we do know that Chile is a multi-disaster country. And what is strange in this meeting, and I miss something, is the participation of the private sector. I have been working since I am 20 in the private sector. I am entrepreneur. I have been entrepreneur since I was 20. And one of the most important things, and the big mentor, is Mrs. Margaret Wallström, who was in Chile in those times. And the entrepreneurial sector was not so aware. But when you feel passionate and when you work very hard and you knock at every door to the organizations, funding is there, but the funding is in the private sector. So let's talk not only about the communities that doesn't have, or the government may not have. And when there is not a convergence in the private sector, when there is not a convergence between the public and private sector, but the money is there. I needed 11 years to be an entrepreneurial activist to convince four governments and the national parliament, but then I succeeded in the approval of this law for the disasters, and the entrepreneurs of whole Chile joined, and that's why we have got the Commission of Management of Disasters in Chile. And there was a very big funding, and the big resources come from there. At that moment, I had just one company. I have 20 in several countries of the world. I have got a multinational company. I devote 30% of my resources through the foundation, Resilience Foundation, to the philanthropy. So I started when I was 20. My mentor was Mrs. Margaret Wallström, and the best conference given to the private sector to raise awareness was given by Mrs. Wallström. And nowadays this exists in Chile. Why not to cooperate if the academy, the civil society, the governments, if they don't turn to the private sector, nothing can be done. So we have really to start talking.
If we don't turn to the private sector, nothing can be done. Also, so I have a mentor and a mentee. Well done, Ms. Wallström. Margarita, so we started from Marcus from GNDR, who didn't invite me to his after party, but that's fine. I don't even know why I gave you the microphone, but that's okay. And then she's also talked about it. And Marcus, he transparently talked about, let's face facts. There are challenges. Not everything is rosy. And now we've also come from the perspective of it's important for the private sector to be considered at this table. What then can be done from your perspective? You've seen it in Chile and many other countries, Margarita. What can be done to strengthen international cooperation in support of local DRR efforts?
I think, Marcus, that one painful thing that is about to happen, maybe in the wrong way, but it's about to happen, cutting out the middleman. That's great. You talked about it. And I think that actually the way the system has been built up, it's been built on distrust. The idea that because you are local, you're not competent, you can't do your accounting, etc., etc. I think we're moving out of that, but too slowly. We really have to decide, and I remember what you said when you talked, Takeya. We promised each other we would do this. So let's do it. And it's been too costly too long. But I think, and also from your presentation about how the UK government is working on these things, it inspires some hope really to see resources filter all the way down. It's less resources, but they are going where they would go. But I also have to say, I remember someone said here, actually the speaker from the Congo, she said that she had a problem with that the local government didn't listen to them. So, to do this, we also need to go that way, because the central government, and now I'm speaking very frankly. The central government doesn't trust local government. Local government don't trust their communities. So I think we also don't trust the private sector because they are profit-making. And only, it took Susanna 11 years of hard work to sort of create a sense of that we also want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
So that conversation really needs to be a frank one. And using those many, on the whole here, I must say, I think we've heard a lot of positive things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think particularly instrumental has been the Resilient Cities Network. Because cities, and I remember the day in Copenhagen when the climate conference was breaking into pieces, then the cities stepped up and say, okay, if governments won't do it, we will do it. The business sector also said, governments, you don't understand, we need a level playing field, that's the language, predictability in regulations, in legislation. But if you're not going to go that way, we will go.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you see examples of here. But we also need to have that frank discussions about the constraints.
Yeah, constraints. You've talked about trust factor. And so, Gerard, I'm just going to literally just dump all of this on you. You're very welcome. You know, when we started this conversation, you brilliantly gave us ideas. We are all on your side. So I'm going to ask you to use your ideas to teach us how to build trust across communities. And I know you didn't prepare for this, but how do we help local communities trust local government? How do we get local government to trust government? Ultimately, government is coming to you for funding. You know what I mean? And sometimes, and I think it was said earlier on this morning, sometimes when you trickle down, things get lost in translation. So we know that £1 billion was released some way, somehow. We just don't know where it went, and we just can't seem to track it. We're live online, so I will not mention names. But give us some examples, teach us, calls to action. How do we build trust?
I wouldn't pretend to teach anyone in this room, but trust is a really, really important factor. And yesterday at the event that I went to with Marcus and colleagues, I described what they were doing as building an infrastructure of trust, which I think is just a way of thinking about how people from facing equivalent challenges but recognizing common threats can come together to do that. Now, the question you're asking, Anita, is a very deep governance question about democratic accountability, and climate action and DRR won't fix that, right? But it needs to work in the spaces sometimes between that and use what it can. And there are good examples where governments and decentralized governments and cities have tried to be more accountable to their citizens. We've seen that in Uganda, for example, with the posting of education budgets in public ways that people could interrogate and say, now I understand what my local government is spending money on, right? And Marcus's point about money is really, really important, and Margherita, your point too, because yes, there is reason for optimism, and there's the three things I take out of this whole few days, but also allied to this session, are momentum. There is real momentum now. You made that point. It's sort of reawakening momentum. I think that's really important, partly because of the absolute necessity as we face increasing and more frequent climate impacts, right? I think we are seeing really strong partnerships. And again, this is where you can build that trust between partnerships. And I think we are seeing a case for increasing integration, cross-disciplinary, cross-institutional integration to build this picture. But trust is a magic dust, because ultimately, those communities and households that we are seeking to support through this process will take action because they trust the information. They trust what people are telling them, or they trust that someone has their interests on their side and at their heart. And that's a really important thing to do. And we as a community are moving into some really difficult weather, financially and elsewhere. And I do want to see, and you mentioned this, more money getting to that local level. There will be less money, right? There will be increased pressure because there will be a greater variety of risks. We are seeing that here in Europe and elsewhere. And I think I have seen enormously good practice in women's rights organizations and elsewhere, where organizations rely on each other and together have a stronger voice in demanding that accountability and that transparency for the risks that they face.
Thank you so much, Gerard. So I'm going to finish off with you, Mr. Takeya, because I can. I want us to leave happy. I want us to leave hopeful. 30 seconds. After him. Microphone, please.
There's a little detail that I forgot to mention earlier. Regardless of the fact that Chile, the law for disaster management, the private sector has been working in disaster risk reduction for many years, and that's why Chile, we get back very quickly. We have very good practices. The fact that we don't have a law, but we still know how to work. Of course, we needed the legislation so that civil society, academia, public and private sector could get together, and that was achieved. But that's the thing that I forgot to say. Yeah, that we created great trust, as Margarita said, because disasters do not make a distinction between rich and poor. And so this in Chile was difficult, but we managed to get it.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So, Mr. Takeya, I come to you. If you had a chance to give us three ways to be successful in our corporations, in our collaborations, in our peer-to-peer learnings, in our partnerships, what would those three ways be?
Okay, so three.
Three.
The first, not talking about a general issue. Not talking as a general issue.
Okay.
We must specify what kind of hazard we are talking, what kind of budgetary 5 years, 10 years, or 50 years for the future. We must identify more, not numerically, scientifically, logically, not emotionally. The second is, we must enhance the government role, because this is a government agreement statement.
Yeah.
So government, why we can trust or not trust, government has take tax from the people. On the other hand, government has a responsibility to secure the human life and asset. This is a basic contract. So government has specially given the rights or power to take tax. And this tax change to the investment for the future. Yes. So we, as a voter, democratic country, we must watch the government and enhance them to do, not to criticizing them. They have some responsibility and they feel responsibility. And the three is, as I said before, each country has each geological condition and the social condition. Everything is different. Not like a COVID-19. There has a key solution as a vaccine or DRR has not key solution. There's a many alternatives. Yeah. So we must select tailor-made countermeasure to each countries. Yeah. So these are three.
Very well done. Do you have a fourth one? Don't mind me. At least we leave on a high note. We need on a little bit of laughter. It's been 3 wonderful days of conversations, and all I can say from my perspective, I'm going to borrow from my sister over there, build back better. Not only build back better. Relax, I was coming to it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for participating. Hopefully, we see each other again next year. And don't forget to ask, let me just leave you with one last thing. The person sitting next to you, ask them who they are, what they do, and how you can collaborate. And if the person is your friend, ask the person behind you. Have a great night. See you at the closing ceremony.
I'm glad
peu top. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello. Bah, j'ai rien bougé moi. Hello, hello. C'est bon là, t'es sûr? Ouais. Ok. Attends 2 secondes, attends 2 secondes, attends 2 secondes. Attends, sans faire gaffe, j'ai cliqué sur un truc là sur l'autre ordi. Do you want to keep this meeting running? Yes. Bref, je reviens à toi. Donc, je change la langue. Attends, merde, j'ai fait une connerie. Attends, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait là? Ah voilà, c'est bon, je suis de retour. Donc... Attends, mais pour changer la langue, t'es pas censé appuyer sur la grosse molette? Je capte pas. Exact, ouais, mais c'est ce que je suis en train de faire, mais ça bouge pas. Ok. Mec, ça bouge pas, c'est chelou. Ouais, je maintiens la touche appuyée, là, la touche du speaker, et je tourne la molette. Normalement, t'as les langues qui apparaissent. Deuxième. C'est chelou, mec. Ah, attends. Fuck me, man. No, it's not this. Alright. Attends.
1, 2, English. Test. Ok, English.
Ouais.
before starting.
Your Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paola Brito, Director of UNDRR, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the closing ceremony of the 8th session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction, under the theme, Every Day Counts, Act for Resilience Today. Over the past days, we have witnessed insightful dialogue, powerful commitments, and meaningful exchanges across sectors and regions. Together, we have advanced the conversation and action on building a more resilient world for all. To begin this closing ceremony, it is now my honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Christian Frutiger, Vice Director General of the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, to present the key points of the Chair summary. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, esteemed delegates, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. As we approach the closing of our event, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for your active participation in this conference. Your presence here, whether in person or virtually, has enriched our discussions and has made evident the power of collaboration in managing disaster risks. The 8th session of the Global Platform has brought together a wide array of voices from around the world. All these different stakeholders shared knowledge and experiences. Together, we have identified solutions to accelerate the implementation of the Sendai Framework. Over the past few days, we have charted a clear path for the next 5 years. We have a demanding road ahead, but this global platform has reaffirmed our common values, sharpened our collective sense of urgency, and renewed our commitment to reduce risks in an inclusive and resilient manner. Let me highlight some personal key takeaways from the past few days. First, integrating risk management and climate action should be our top priority. We need to ensure that climate finance is also accessible for disaster risk reduction actions. Second, disaster risk reduction is a strategic investment, not a cost. Third, DRR is not just the responsibility of government. This global platform has highlighted the role of all stakeholders. And let us be reminded of the particular exposure and vulnerability of the least developed countries, small island developing states, landlocked developing countries, and African countries, as well as middle-income countries facing specific challenges and countries in fragility, conflict, and violent settings. Before I share with you the key points of the co-chair summary, I would like to take a moment to thank UNDRR, the city and the canton of Geneva, and the many different actors involved in the organization of this event. I also thank our moderators, speakers, technical teams, interpreters, volunteers, and support staff who ensured everything ran smoothly from the beginning to the end. As we leave this venue and return to our countries, organizations, and communities, I encourage you to carry forward the energy and the momentum we have built here. Now, I am proud to share with you the key points from the co-chair's summary of this platform. The Geneva Call for Disaster Risk Reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, today we reaffirm a global commitment to reduce disaster risks and build resilience. The Geneva Call for Disaster Risk Reduction recognizes the progress made since the adoption of the Sendai Framework 10 years ago. Around the world, local actors and communities are showing us what is possible when people take risk reduction into their own hands. But disasters grow in frequency and cost, and as international support becomes more limited, we must act more urgently, more concretely, and more collaboratively to reach the goals of the Sendai Framework by 2030 and to contribute to the broader ambitions of the 2030 Agenda and beyond. So first, we need better data to understand risk. Risk-informed decisions depend on strong data. Countries must collect and share historical disaster data, disaggregated by sex, age, disability, and income, and use it for predictive analyses. Tools like the disaster tracking system and the Sendai Framework monitor must be fully used and scaled up. Second, we must use technology to leapfrog progress. Emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, offer powerful tools to accelerate disaster risk reduction. The use must be ethical and inclusive, with particular attention to ensuring access for developing countries and last-mile communities. Third, we must promote integrated risk governance and cooperation. Today's risks are complex and interconnected. That requires breaking institutional and policy silos and linking disaster risk reduction with climate adaptation, environmental protection, and social policy. We also need stronger international and regional cooperation to manage transboundary and emerging risks.